Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 7th. Well, yesterday wasn't all that bad. I mean, yes, it filled back in most of the move, but it was modest. The bigger news right now is that there was discussions, or at least potential meeting of the Chinese and the U.S. on tariffs in a third location. So that obviously has spiked things back up a little bit. We did get the break though of the magenta below the 33, so it's going to have to recover pretty quick. The difference being is that you've got a slight turn up of your midterm buyers in the DOC, and you're still orange, caught right in between uh, cyan and red. So we're still in a continuation of the up move. That hasn't changed, and you can also see from the extreme we never dipped below the red line or anything like that. So, yeah, this slight sideways, but there's still no short activity. So from that standpoint, they're not going to be able to do much. It's just a question: are there enough buyers to drive things forward? Similar reading here from the Nasdaq, not quite as negative, and that's been the difference because we expected the Nasdaq to hold up. Now the question becomes: the Nasdaq went from positive to negative and is still negative, so um, that's problematic. And you need to see a turnaround in it like immediately, or things are going to get ugly because maintaining that positive move, uh, particularly within rising gold, is critical. So it's a precarious kind of stability at this particular stage. From a treasury standpoint, nobody's expecting the Fed to do a thing. They're going to punt because they're just too uncertain. But as you can see, China's suffering so much more that they're willing to actually go to the table of doing anything is an indication. Of course, that's a bonus for oil. But the longer this stays down at this lower level, as we talked about, the better things get. Still in a much stronger position now, and so we may see a rise back up. And if that's, as long as it can keep it under that mid 60 range, then it would be helpful. But ideally, in the lower 50s, you'd really start to drive things. Certainly, it would be difficult for oil producers, but they've made more than enough over this period. From a euro standpoint, that's exciting for the euro for some reason because why? Yeah, no good reason. Other than they still believe that inflation is going to skyrocket, and the U.S. is looking at GDP drop of 2 to 3% at least, simply because of tariffs. And they really don't have a model that justifies it because you're not required to buy anything, and it just gets to be an obnoxious sort of like rhetoric. It's like you're forced to buy the exact same products. They think of it as their EU economy, where yeah, everything you pay a VAT on. Well, you don't have to buy Italian wine. You can go buy, the local product from the Carolinas, California, whatever. It's weird. Gold is certainly suffering on the news of talks because that would be a definite problematic situation within the narrative that inflation is going to skyrocket. So Bitcoin held up fine within the selling in this. So none of this was all that dramatic. And again, it's just the market trying to feel for where it can take advantage of weak positions. And in this particular case, everyone expecting the negative, so the upside is always the counter play. This is the psychology. It's always been that way. ETH still caught in this narrow band, even though everyone's touting tokenization. So when we saw the readings from yesterday, we saw the MBI white lead. We expected, we pointed out during the video report that as things moved with the MBI white, we expected to move to zero. And we got that. If you didn't get this move to zero, you'd have a much stronger spike. But we moved to zero. Magenta came back, drove it up, got hit that 50%, and was really spiked quite high. And then MBI white showed again, and it took a while. There were a lot of interludes in between there, but finally came down, even though there was still fairly weak MBI from that standpoint. But you had to steel reset. You see, that's where that gets the problem. But then we ended up getting the steel reset as we approached zero, and boom, that's when news broke of this orange dipping below, and boom, skyrocket. So it'll battle around at this particular stage, but also notice on that 50K, the rising gold, that should be enough to hold things up for at least some period of time. And when you look at it from an intraday standpoint, you can see it was after the close, and there's the spike. I mean, it's just talk about a massive short cover rally on the magenta rising with MDI white, but still above yellow. And yeah, that's rip your face off. And that's what happens in short cover rallies, particularly in low liquidity situations. And you can see it hasn't done a whole lot of anything since that particular point. So we're sort of in the hold there. But yeah, again, I don't think there's anything to panic. You're talking about all these guys saying that the market's going to crash 50+% and everything. They're based on what? Things are still improving. It's sporadic, difficult. This is that transition, awkward period of it. But as resolution happens, and yeah, if it takes too long, that's a problem. But that you actually have discussions now. That changes everything, at least from the China trade situation, and that's been the main driver of things at this particular stage. So there you have it. That's the long and the short of it for now. As always, though, anything relevant, I'll put it on our team chat. Ooh, yeah, MBI traders on Microsoft Teams. Exciting. Anyway, have a good one. Trade well.